We grow our own cucumbers, and around about this time of year, about August time, we always have far more cucumbers than we can possibly eat. So today, I'm going to show you how we make pickled cucumbers. You know, those kind of wonderful gherkin-y type things that you get in burgers, etc. Now we are going to pick our own cucumbers, pickle them in our own vinegar, and spice that vinegar with our own mustard seed, chilli and garlic. But it's absolutely fine to buy all the ingredients. Let me show you how it's done. Hello, welcome to English Country Life. Welcome to the garden and the greenhouse area, and welcome to homemade pickled cucumbers, or pickled gherkins if you prefer. My name's Hugh, and today I want to show you how we take the glut that we get of cucumbers from that greenhouse there. We pickle it in some of our homemade vinegar, and we've got a video that shows how we make that. We spice that vinegar with some of the chilies you can just see behind me, some of the mustard seed that we grow, and some of the early garlic for this year. And we make the most tangy and fragrant and wonderful pickled cucumbers to go in the burgers, to go onto salads. Try it once, you'll never eat a commercial one again. Let me show you how it's done. Yeah, that's the size I really like for pickling. Not too big. With a nice thick skin on it, they pickle beautifully. Well, I reckon that's enough cucumbers to be going on with. And if you look just here, you can see some of our wonderful Palavec and Onivec chilies that are beautifully ripe. So I'll pick a couple of those and they can go in the vinegar to spice it. Here we are. These are Onivec chilies. Marvellous, spicy and big, as you can see. Look at the size of those. Aren't they wonderful? We'll get a couple. Make sure we get a really spicy mix. There we go. So the first part of this job is to infuse the vinegar with flavours. I'm using our own vinegar, and I'm going to boil it up on this little camping stove outdoors. Why? Well, boiling vinegar with chilli and garlic doesn't half smell a bit. It's a lovely smell, but it is strong. So doing it outdoors kind of helps. I'm going to show the recipe for 500 mils of vinegar. Honestly, I normally do a lot more because we have a lot of produce to pickle, but let's show it on a simple, easy scale to start with. So first things first, I'm going to filter this vinegar, because if you look closely you can see some white stuff floating in it. That's mother of vinegar, showing this is a live vinegar culture. It's brilliant, but it's not suitable for this recipe. So I'm going to pass it through a sieve. I'm going to put 500 mils in the pan. So all I'm trying to do now is carefully pour vinegar through until I get 500 mils. You can almost certainly see now the little pieces of mother of vinegar inside the bottle, and as I say, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a sign it's a really high quality vinegar, but I don't want it in this recipe, so we'll just make sure nothing gets into the jug. And that sort of weird gelatinous stuff, that's mother of vinegar. Fabulous living culture that turns wine or cider or beer into homemade vinegar. Now I'm going to spice my vinegar with chilli, garlic and mustard seed, because I like those flavours. Don't think that you need to use those spices. Common ones, you may have heard of dill pickles, so putting dill in your vinegar is common. Turmeric turns up quite a bit in a number of the recipes you'll find. Use what you like. Yeah. Use nothing at all, just plain vinegar. Now I think, again, I like to sweeten mine, so for every 500 ml I put 250 grams of sugar in my vinegar. You don't have to, it's not necessary, but it makes it into a sweeter pickle rather than a sort of really hard pickled onion type bite of vinegar pickle. Your choice entirely. Me, chilli, garlic, mustard seed. For 500 ml, 1 big chilli, 3 cloves of garlic and 2 tablespoons of mustard seed. Look at those, aren't they great? Really big, fat cloves. This is this year's garlic. I lifted it 2 or 3 weeks ago. Interestingly, the biggest ones will be replanted in late September, early October. So a couple of months away, that's all. Now, how I tend to peel garlic, take off the top and tail with a sharp knife, put the broad part of the knife on the garlic, give it a smack, and then you can just peel off the skin like so. So all I'm doing is roughly chopping this garlic, and that'll go in the vinegar with the sugar, chilli, a couple of tablespoons of mustard seed, and just give it a little bit more flavour. I don't like with these cucumber pickles, because cucumber's quite a soft vegetable, it doesn't carry a lot of its own flavour, and I don't want it to only taste of vinegar. I want a bit of sugariness, a little bit of heat, a little bit of garlicky goodness, just to give it a more rounded flavour. This is, as I said, one of our endeavour chilies. I'm going to split this and remove the seeds. Seeds give heat, and in this I want flavour but not overwhelming heat. I'm not going to waste the seeds, they will get dried on a saucer and they will make next year's chilli plants. So we'll pull those out and keep them to one side. I'm cutting thin strands here, but I'm probably going to leave them quite long. I think they look quite attractive in the jar of pickles that way. There we go. That is 3 cloves of garlic and a chilli, and onto that I'm adding 2 tablespoons of our own dried mustard seeds, 250 grams of a muscovado raw cane sugar. And here is our wonderful homemade elderflower vinegar. Here's a cheap little camping stove, and I'll bring that to the boil, let it infuse, simmer gently for 10 minutes and then let it cool. What I will do while the sugar dissolves is just make sure I keep stirring to ensure the sugar doesn't burn on the bottom of the pan and caramelise. You can see I've got a lovely dark colour here, but remember, this was a white wine vinegar, but it's infusing with all that dissolved muscovado sugar and all those spices, which will give it a dark colour. If you want a light colour, use a white sugar, or a golden colour, and something perhaps like a demerara. While our vinegar comes up to the boil, I'm going to get the cucumbers ready. In order to do that, all I'm going to do is trim off the stalk ends and the pointy ends, and then evenly slice the cucumber. Honestly, a knife is fine, but I am going to use a mandolin because it's the sort of tool, if you bulk process a lot of foods, is worth having. A bit like an apple peeler and corer, those kind of things. If you do one now and again, they're just clutter in your kitchen. If you do 50, 60, 70 apples at a time, or a whole basket of cucumbers, then a mandolin or an apple corer, worth having. If you do use a mandolin, and what they are is a very sharp blade with a slidey platform, and I'll show you how to use it in a bit. But the one thing with a mandolin, wear a glove, preferably a cut-proof glove. I took the end of that finger off with a knife. I degloved that finger on a ladder. I'm running short of fingers. Call me Frodo if you want. I know loads of people who seriously cut themselves on a mandolin. Just go careful. This is all you do with a mandolin. And every time that's going over, it's cutting slices. I'm using a corrugated blade. Gives a nice kind of crinkle cut chip look. But there's a straight blade in there as well. You can use whichever one you like. I just think the corrugated blade looks a bit more attractive. When you get to the end of what you're slicing, This allows you to hold it safely. It has spikes that will grip into the cucumber, and you can just run it over until it's gone. And as you can see, you can push it up to make sure you get the last little bit. Sounds like our vinegar's boiling. I'll just turn it down to a simmer. There's a big bowl there of crinkle cut cucumbers. To be honest, if you want something a bit more traditionally gherkin-like, you can get specialist gherkins to grow, which grow a lot smaller with thicker skins. You can pick the cucumbers smaller, and that works great as well. I'm tending to use these to use up a glut, and they work just fine with a larger cucumber. But grow the ones, use the ones that most suit your needs. Let me show you the next part of this. So here's the next part of our process. I'm putting a layer of these lovely crinkle cut cucumber slices on the bottom of this colander. Love this colander. Stands on its own legs, so you can drain things into a sink when it's stood in the bottom of the sink. Can span the sink because the handles go out that way. Absolute brilliant bit of kit. Made, I don't think they still make them, but they make something similar, I'm sure, by a firm called Oxo Good Grips. So shout out to them. Not getting sponsored or anything, wish I was. Just think they make brilliant stuff. And what I'm doing with my single layer of cucumber is I am giving it a light coating of salt. Then I'm going to put on another layer. And why I'm doing that is the salt will draw moisture out of the cucumber, make it a little bit drier. And we'll rinse all the salt away before we finished, so there won't be salty cucumber, don't worry. But what I'm doing is drawing out some of the cucumber juice, the water, so that when we put the slightly drier cucumber in a jar and add our spiced vinegar, the cucumber will suck up that spiced vinegar. And as it draws the liquid out, it can all drip out the bottom of the colander. I saw this technique used by an old lady and I thought, that's genius. I would have done it in a bowl or something, and of course it all sits swimming in its own juice that way. Whereas if you do it in a colander or a sieve or whatever you've got, all the liquid can get away. The cucumber's had its 45 minutes, and I'd just like to show you something on the effects of that salt. That's a lot of liquid drained out of that cucumber, and it will absorb the same amount of vinegar, which will give it that lovely crisp, crunchy almost flavour with the vinegar soaked up into the product, rather than it being a wet piece of cucumber sat in the vinegar. Hard to explain, but try it, it's worth doing. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take my rinsed, clean cucumber that's been through the salting process for 45 minutes, and I'm going to fairly tightly pack that into clean, sterilised jars. There's many ways you can sterilise them. You can pop them in an oven at gas mark 1 around about 100 centigrade just for 20 minutes, and that will kill any bacteria. Or what I do is put them into a big stock pan with water, bring that to the boil and hold it there for 5 minutes, remove the jars with a set of tongs and let them cool, and they're then sterilised, ready for pickling. Look at that, doesn't it look wonderful? I do like the effect that the crinkle cut gives to the edge of the cucumber. It doesn't make any difference in terms of taste, preservation, it's purely an aesthetic thing. What I'm doing, packing those in well, pushing them right down, and then I use a jam funnel. Pop it on top, small ladle, and our cooled vinegar, because with all the 45 minutes of salt on the cucumber and then rinsing it, this vinegar's had plenty of time to cool. And I'm just going to ladle that over the top. Let it work its way down between all the little layers of the cucumber. And I tell you now, the smell of this vinegar is incredible. Because it's got chilli and garlic and a bit of sweetness as well as the vinegar, it has a wonderful, almost like a sort of black bean sauce, Chinese kind of smell to it. Incredible, so much better than just plain malt vinegar. And once that vinegar is covering all of the cucumber, what I will do, put a little lid on it and just tilt it to the sides, and you may be able to see little bubbles rising up when I do that. Because of the layers of cucumber, it's quite hard for the air to escape sometimes, so it's worth spending just a minute or two doing that. And then take the lid off and just top up the vinegar to make sure that all of the vegetables are fully covered in the liquid. And it's the vinegar that's the preserving agent here. So you don't need to water bath can, you don't need to pressure can or anything else, provided you've got a sterile jar, everything is submerged in the vinegar, it's going to be absolutely fine. And there they are. Take a look. I mean, they're just bright and vibrant, and the flavours of these things are incredible. With that dark sugar and the light zingy homemade vinegar and the chilli for heat and the garlic for smoothness. The flavours are amazing. Trust me, you have to try this if you've never done it. If you get a glut of cucumbers and you've not known what to do with it, give this a go. And let me show you another one we do. This lighter coloured one is done with turmeric and star anise and white wine vinegar and a bit of mustard seed. And again, it's a lighter, zingy thing for a summer salad. They're just amazing. That's it. It's a simple recipe, but it excites me. It takes a glut, something that's almost surplus to requirement. It turns it into something that's just exciting on a dark, cold, miserable day. You open a jar of this up, and it's got all those kind of wonderful spices and the stickiness of the sugar and the sharpness of the vinegar and the heat of the chilli and the smoothness of the garlic and a little bit of burn from the mustard seed. It's just amazing. You know those flabby things that you get in commercial burgers, and I call it pickled sea slug. It doesn't do any justice to what a pickled cucumber or a pickled gherkin should be. You want it lighter and brighter and zingier. Turmeric, star anise, mustard seed, brilliant. And make your own combinations. Like this one, almost like a sort of black bean sauce Chinese meal. This one, almost like a summer cocktail. But they're all possible. And what I'd love to get across here is we grew the cucumbers, we grew the chilies, we grew the mustard seed, we grew the garlic, we made the vinegar from wine that we've made ourselves. And none of that needs fancy kit. This just goes in old recycled jam jars. You don't need canners and water bath canners and all the other fancy kit to do this. You can do it in a domestic garden or just by buying the ingredients from a supermarket. If you're enjoying this kind of content, can you spare us 5 seconds? Give us a thumbs up down below and tell me, do you want to see more food preservation? We do masses of it, and if it's interesting, I'll share that with you. And if you want to see those kind of videos, hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it, and you'll hear every time we upload new content. But whatever you do, enjoy the summer, enjoy the sunshine, come back and see us soon. Take care.